Alright, today we're having a look at Swan Song by Famous Prophet. Alright, so here we are in Swan Song, and it's looking like a kind of sci-fi future type platformer. The story is that we've got to find some water on Mars because most of humanity is gone. They dispatch these swan type robots. We've got emotes. I'm going with that one. That one looks like fun. Right, we've got this last of its kind robo that loves its job and really wants to find some water reserves on Mars for the peeps, and we support that. I'm not gonna get in the way of a robot that loves their job. So far, the environment, it's kind of interesting. So, all right, we got a battery now. Now, according to the... Oh, yeah. Wait, what did we use our one... Like, if we hold on the L3, we can see over here the different controls. A double jump with battery. Now, did we use our one battery? Are we kind of, like, screw-diddly-ooed about the batterying? I'm gonna feel a little bit bad about that if I just use the battery to show off. Almost bad enough to change my emote, but not quite bad enough to change my emote. I don't know what these rocks have to do with the story. Oh, there's a battery over there. Alright. I don't know if the rocks have anything to do with what we're trying to do in this game, or at least in this creation. Are they gonna help us find water, or not? It seems like we run faster with the battery as well. That just might be my own reading of that. It might not actually be true, but it did seem like we got a little bit of boost from the battery. Maybe not. Alright, there's nothing really challenging as of yet so far, which is not necessarily a bad thing on its own. But while the environment is nice looking, I don't know that it's distinctive enough to kind of carry a lack of gameplay. And I think that's something that's going to be a thing that the community's going to have to think a little bit more about, even than with Little Big Planet. Oh, look at that. I mean, yes, we can make these nice environments. Did I just take a picture? I think I just took a picture of something. But if the environment is still not very distinctive, it's still gonna kind of feel a little bit like a set piece rather than an actual place that has, well, I mean, even a dead planet has some quote-unquote life. I do appreciate that they've got the sand blowing in the background. I don't believe that is particularly Mars-like. It reminds me a little bit more of Jupiter than Mars, but I'm not gonna complain. It's a nice effect. Oh, buggery. Have we... Oh, I hope we haven't bricked this up. I can't double jump, but I never used the double jump off the battery. Ara? Okay, we're kind of hugging the cliff face with our face. So that's, I mean, makes sense. We left a bunch of rocks back over there. I don't know if that's important or not. Like, do we need a certain number of rocks to kind of progress things along? We are taking these pictures. I guess part of our job is exploration, and our little robo unit does seem to like the exploration, so that's cool. I myself also like exploration in the main, in concept, in theory. Alright, we got 100 rocks. Now, 100 is quite often in video games a number of significance. 100 coins and you get a free life for Mario, for example. Can't get up there. That is definitely way too far. But it does not seem that 100 rocks has done much of anything for us. The clean, smooth sides of these, I guess you'd call them mesa, they are starting to kind of wear on me a little bit because it does make them look, well, kind of unnatural. Eh? Nani? Nani? Nande? Nande? I guess touching the sand kills us? It was an interesting kill effect. I definitely want to give it that. But where do we go? Now that we cleared off those rocks, I kind of am a bit lost. Crumbs. Alright, there's some more rocks. We can get up there, perhaps. But we've only got 12 seconds. Oh, bugger me. Don't bugger me, by the way. I got my face stuck again. Ara! We're gonna have to talk about this back at the hub, but we will see you there. See yas! And we're back. And Swan Song by Famous Prophet. I'm gonna give it a yellow square, but it is a softer yellow square, and there's a certain... Your mileage may vary, even for myself, on this one. And I was debating whether or not to give it a yellow square or an orange diamond. But I think that the good points in the end elevate it enough to bring it up to where we are. And to kind of preface this and kind of what I'm going to be talking about and where my mind is going with this, I'd like us to consider the walking simulator. A much maligned type of game, a much maligned type of gameplay. And I think that we could look at kind of two end of polls examples of the walking simulator. You got Gone Home and Journey. And the idea with these walking simulators, as they're often pejoratively called, and I do think that the quote-unquote walking simulator is a very good and a very genuine example of video game design, but I know that a lot of people are against them. And generally they tend to be seen in the negative light as very meandering, without a lot of forward drive, without a lot of forward purpose and push in the level design or the game design. There's not like a lot of momentum that says you need to go here or you need to be here or this is the goal that you are supposed to be solving or working towards. It's much more, here is this environment, and interact with the environment as you will, and let the environment tell a story to you. And I said that Journey and Gone Home are kind of opposite poles on this side, where Journey is using a lot of incidental environmental storytelling and is backing that up with actually some very solid gameplay. That it's very active. You're jumping around, you're flitting from place to place, and you are very, I don't want to say aggressive, but very forward in your exploration of the environment. So even if the kind of the environmental storytelling is not clicking for you, that there is that gameplay element to it that I think that can carry people along. And there are probably people that would not consider Journey to be a, again, quote-unquote walking simulator. Now on the other hand, you've got Gone Home, and Gone Home has almost no quad gameplay in the action sense. You're not really very active in that environment. You're wandering through the house, you can pick things up, you can read notes. Again, like Journey, there's not a big golden arrow that's saying do this thing or here's what we have to solve. But where there's not a lot of gameplay, there's a lot of storytelling in not only the environment but also what is actively presented to the player. You pick up this journal and you learn more about your parents' issues and how they're not getting along, and how your father, if you dig deep enough, may not be entirely the person that he's presenting himself to be, and may have a very much more difficult relationship with his own father than is initially registered, with the image of the 1990s family unit. And as well, in that kind of incidental environmental storytelling, I myself did not pick up on the fact that in Gone Home, almost every major piece of electronics for the time period is missing. And there are torn wires like in the wall where they should be, where they've obviously been pulled out or unplugged. And that the indication there that the kind of main character's sister has actually stolen all of these things in order to hawk them, get money to run off with her girlfriend, and start a new life, absconding away with the girlfriend before she can join the military. And that's like a really interesting bit of environmental storytelling that is never directly said to the player, at least as far as I know, but that you can actually pick up with repeated playings. Now I wanted to kind of set all that up because I do think that Swan Song is ultimately a walking simulator, an example of a walking simulator that's disguised as a platformer. There's not a lot of direction. We've got a little bit that's told to us in the kind of title screen. It says, with Earth dying, the future of mankind is placed in the hands of the Project Swan, a last-ditch effort to find water on Mars sent by the hundreds. The cheaply made rovers soon fell to the elements except one, and darn it, you love your job. That's all that we've got to go on. There are those little rock bits that do provide some direction as to what, where you're supposed to be going, but there's not really a lot of other purpose to those bits. We collect them and we collect them. Nothing seems to trigger. Nothing seems to be going on. We're just moving through that environment from point A, the beginning of the level, to point B, the end of the level. And now we talk about kind of environmental storytelling, and you do certainly get the feeling of, although I don't know if I would go so far as to say you get the feeling of Mars, but you get the feeling of a very desolate, dry, arid planet that you are moving through, where the only other moving thing is the dust that is being blown across by the winds, which is not a Mars thing. But we're not gonna get into that too much. Let's not let physics break our enjoyment of video games. Now, the issue with the environment that I found, and this was one of the big reasons why I felt that I wasn't sure whether I wanted it to be a orange diamond or a yellow square, is the environment is extremely samey. It's like nice in the initial blush. You see kind of all these rock shapes and features and kind of mesa-esque type things that you're moving through. And that first look is like, wow, I mean, that's like really cool. But as you continue to play, and there's almost nothing to break up that environment, there's nothing to differentiate the environment. And on my first playthrough, actually, after we cut for the video and I was looking around, I kept on going back in the wrong direction because I did not know where to go. And for some reason, I wasn't seeing, maybe I wasn't panning the camera right or whatever, but I wasn't seeing the next point of progress, which when you know where it is actually quite clear. So that part's on me. But the fact that the environment was so similar in that first area that I couldn't tell that I had gotten completely turned around and kept on pushing in the wrong direction, I do think stands against the level. To put a little bit more into those rock surfaces, to make it a little bit easier for players to differentiate area A from area B, instead of having these just solid slabs of material, I think would have gone a long way and would have made direction a little bit more clear to players. That's something that we need to be considering, and in any game, not just Dreams, but any game, we need to be considering how are players interacting with this environment. Will players be able to figure out on their own, just by what they can see on the screen, where they're supposed to go next, or where they ought to be going next, or if there is a next place for them to go to. Now, I did in the second playthrough kind of figure out to some extent where I had gone wrong, and you kind of go into this secondary area, this deep underground cave area. That area was at least more visually distinct. I definitely want to give it that. It was easier to navigate and to know where I had been and where I hadn't been, and kind of from that deduce where I'm supposed to be going. And I think that section is really what brought home to me the connection, the genealogy with games like Journey and with games like Gone Home, that there is a building story that you start to feel in particular from that area, that this our rover unit, our Swan from the Project Swan, I'm just going to call it Swan, is the last of its kind, and it is on this quest, and you do find water. You're trying to send that signal on to humanity, so humanity knows that there is water here on Mars, and there is a tension, a growing tension in the level as to whether or not you will be able to complete that goal. And that section there, that storytelling there, I thought was really cool. And I thought that was the elevating element to this level, and that's what brought it up to a yellow square for me. Now, I would say from a narrative standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint, that I I feel, but I think that this may also be just my own interaction with media, my own interaction with stories. I feel that the end could have been a little bit more ambiguous to slightly better effect, leaving it up to the player, leaving it up to the person experiencing the level as to whether or not Swan was in fact successful or not. I'm not going to give away the ending there, but the ending is very, very clear. There's no ambiguity as to what has happened in the final section, and I think that a little bit of ambiguity there, a little bit of a change in order of some of the scant dialogue would have, I think, made a richer experience. Not necessarily a fuller experience, but a richer experience of that story. But again, that's just me as a narrative critique. That's not necessarily how everybody's going to feel about that level. One thing that I do want to point out that I really, really liked, and usually we start off with this, but I guess we're finishing with this, is I love the Swan unit. I thought it was super cute. I thought it was super neat. It was a little bit difficult at times to judge, like, jump distances and the hitbox of the feet, and where was going to be a safe place to try to throw myself to. But otherwise, like the addition of the emotive function, the little emojis that show up on the screen, that wasn't necessary. They didn't have to do that, but they did do it, and it was implemented really quite well, and it just kind of gave that extra feeling of character to the robot unit. And robot units can be a little bit difficult to give character to, because they're metal or plastic, and they're not generally emotive. They don't project emotions very much. So I thought that was really, really cool. That was a really nice technique, and a nicely handled technique. But I think that pretty much does it for us here this go about. Again, this might be a little bit of a your mileage may vary level. You may play the level and perhaps get frustrated with it, or perhaps feel that it doesn't have enough impetus to carry you along. But I think that if you do give it the time and you don't get lost, which is not necessarily on your end of things, but if you do those things, that you may get a fair amount of satisfaction out of what has been done here by Famous Prophet. Famous Prophet, thank you so much. This is, I like it. I think it's a really good level. I think you've done a really good job, and I look forward to more from you in the future. But I think that pretty much does it for us. Yes? What does that mean? I think that pretty much does it for us this go about. So, from me, Risco, here in Osaka, to all of you out there, wherever you may happen to be, thank you. Arigato, sayonara, see you, and ciao.